This is a blueprint to becoming the top SDR, and today I'm going to walk you through the chapters of a cold call to become one. Chapter 1 is the beginning of a cold call, and we are going to start with what even is a cold call. A cold call is the method by which you contact someone who does not know about your business and it is your first time contacting them. For example, you rep in the Austin, Texas area. So with the list built out, you call on businesses you believe would most benefit from your product. That is cold calling. And you might be wondering how Ted has any authority to speak on the subject. I'll tell you why. I became a national sales competitor my senior year of college. I won the onboarding award for biggest game in my first 6 weeks at corporate sales. And I broke top SDR in the company for 2 months in a row, all within 4 months of joining the company. I became the top SDR for 2 times in a row, so I can tell you how to do it at least once. I've helped dozens of SDRs raise their expectations for themselves, and that's just the people I know of, not counting the people who these videos have helped. So we go to step 1 in the blueprint, the introduction. I'm gonna walk you through both examples. Hung up on and continued conversation. In version 1, it's really a cluster of everything all at once. It's overwhelming to the prospect and they're not gonna wanna hear more. An example of that sounds like, hey, my name is Ted, I'm with company XYZ and I'm trying to get a hold of da-da-da-da-da. Click. It's too long, it's too much all at once, and you're overwhelming the prospect. So the worst thing you can do is everything all at once. That's gonna scare them off. They're not gonna wanna talk to you. And how a winner introduces themselves on a cold call is broken down into several steps, some of which you might not expect. The first, you're gonna understand if this is the correct person you're talking to. So you're going to ask, prospect name. Then the next thing, after they've confirmed that they are the correct person, you are going to confirm that their position is the same. People change job titles all the time, and it is your responsibility to qualify this prospect at the beginning of the call. So you're going to say, hey, I noticed that you are the position at company. Is that still accurate? Now you have clarified they are the correct person and they have the correct title and they're at the company you're looking for. You already have 3 wins going into the call. And a small bonus for those of you who are new to cold calling, there is one thing you can do that's going to increase your engagement as you make the introduction to your call. This is the little bonus here. In keeping it short, you're gonna ask a no-oriented question. Am I catching you at a bad time? More likely than not, they're gonna wanna say no, regardless of what you ask them. So this gives yourself a way to continue the conversation. Overall, an introduction that is highly effective is short and sweet and is broken up into engaging points. The worst thing you can do is start a monologue as soon as you call. People are gonna go like this. Click. And now you've made the introduction. This takes us to the second part of the first chapter, the opening statement. To quote sales pro Jordan Belford, use power words because power words go a long way in capturing someone's attention and establishing yourself as the expert. Utilizing these power words, I approach the opening statement from a curiosity perspective. There are 2 versions of an opening statement. Version 1, what doesn't work, and version 2, what does work. The opening statement shows that you're an expert in the field and you can potentially help them all in one set of dialogue. Here are some common points that are missed by people who aren't good at building opening statements. 1, they have no social proof. In your opening statement, you want to show how you've helped other people. Worst thing you can do is not mention anyone else you have helped. No social proof. The second is there's no genuine excitement or curiosity. If you're monotone like this, as you're reading the opening statement, even if you have all the correct numbers and social proof, do you really think they're gonna listen to you? The answer is no, because that's boring and people don't like boring, especially in business. You're giving them a cold call. The worst thing you can do is be boring. So, no excitement. And third, and this is what gets most SDRs in the technology industry specifically, is lack of knowledge on the product. This means terminology, this means competitors, this means anything that would be relevant to the prospect you're talking about. Lack of knowledge. Remember, you're an expert calling an expert. You need to know the terminology that they use to maximize how much you're going to get out of this conversation. Now for my winners, this is going to be the structure that I have used to garner me as the top SDR in the company for 2 months in a row. That is, you're gonna tell them the reason for the call. The reason for the call. Remember, at this point, people are still curious. They wanna know why the heck you're calling them. You're going to tell them right now in the opening statement. 2, you are going to build off of numbers. So this can be the amount of years you've been in business. This can be the amount of customers you've helped in this specific area. You're going to use numbers to your advantage. And for social proof, you are going to want to tell them exactly who you've helped and how you've helped them, by what percentage, what amount of revenue, as long as it's not a confidentiality notice and can lead to your next book. So, social proof. Great. Now we've got the structure for a winning opening statement for a cold call, but what's the bonus? The bonus here is what you do next. This is called a transition question, which is going to bring us to chapter 2. It's going to be an open-ended current situation question about what they're using, what their situation or what their day-to-day is, so that you can open up the conversation and get the information you need to qualify this prospect further. This transition question is going to continue to open them up throughout the call, and let me walk you through exactly what type of questions are going to do that for you. The next chapter of our journey, the middle of the call, is where the magic happens. This brings us to, drumroll please, questions. Let's face it, some people suck at asking questions. And right now, that may be you. But how can I make such an egregious claim? Because I was there once. I sucked worse than everyone else in the classroom and on the phone. My hope for you is that this video is the one that helps you change that. Now, there are 2 types of questions, then we will get into a bonus question. Version 1 is the close. People answer with a yes or a no because you're asking yes or no questions. This is like that one terrible date you had that you swore you'd never go out with again. Now, version 2 is the open-ended question. These will almost always start with how or what. They are meant to open up the conversation to give the prospect the opportunity to tell you more about their situation, their problems, and the pain that their problems can cause for them in the future. Unless it is absolutely necessary for clarity to ask a closed question, always use open-ended questions. Remember, it's a dialogue. You are working back and forth with this prospect. It's not supposed to be a one-sided yes or no debate. Now for our bonus question, the option question. This is meant to funnel a prospect's attention into one of 2 or 3 verticals that your specific value proposition can help with. The way to go about this option question is this. Say something like, typically when I work with titles that the prospect has, their main concerns revolve around problem A, problem B, or problem C. Which of those is top of mind for you at the moment? This is going to allow them the freedom to choose. It's going to give them the illusion of choice, but in reality, you are narrowing them down into a set of options. And better yet, even if none of these are their problems, you know what they're going to tell you next? No, A, B, and C, we don't really deal with that. It's more of D. Perfect. Now you have their main pain point that you can build off of in your differentiation statements. But what happens if your prospect is not completely on board with your conversation and raises an objection? Womp womp. Now, this next section may be the most coveted yet. Objection handling. Before we get started here, those of you who have found the video helpful so far, pause this video and share with a coworker or a friend who you believe might benefit from learning about this winning cold call blueprint. As always, it is you who makes the channel grow, and I am eternally grateful for your most precious resource, your attention. I promise to make it worth it. Now, right away, I want to talk about two key concepts that are going to make objection handling make sense. The first part is clarity. There are initial objections and there are real objections. Some of them are brush-offs and just meant to get you off the phone. Some of them, they really can't work with. They are real objections. Your first objective is to find clarity on which one that is. The next part I do when I have the clarity on why they presented their objection, I handle it. Here are the methods I use to handle objections. I most commonly use 4 different types. These are pulled from different industries that I've been a part of. The first being ART. ART stands for 3 words: agree, respond, transition. I learned this in door-to-door sales in Chicago. This was the most common way that we could quickly handle an objection and shift the focus to another aspect of the sale to close the deal. For this, we had closed deals within 5 to 15 minutes, being anywhere from $600 all the way up to my most expensive, which was a $3,000 contract. So this objection style works, and I'm gonna walk through exactly how to do it. So any objection they bring up, you're gonna agree with them. You're not gonna try and defend yourself. You're gonna put yourself in their shoes for just a moment and understand, wow, this is really a painful thing for them. This is why they brought it up to me. You're going to agree with what they said. Next, you're going to respond. This is going to provide first the value that you understand them, and then when you respond, this is going to be social proof. So you're going to use how you have helped other people in a similar situation after you've shown you've understood them. So right here, we have social proof. When you're cold calling, this social proof is going to be other companies you have helped. After you've agreed with them and showed how you've helped solve the problem for other people, now and only now are you going to transition to a different aspect of the call. It's going to sound something like this. We've actually helped company X and Z do that exact same thing, but something else they were actually interested in was XYZ. By having the transition at the end, especially in a cold call, you can have something else to talk about, potentially address another concern, and if there is nothing else to pivot to, you can even close directly after the transition. This worked best for me in door-to-door. I'm gonna now walk you through what's worked best to me in a closing type role. This technique is the FFF, the feel, felt, found method. This is most commonly used for higher ticket deals where people need reassurance to make their purchase. Say it's a price objection. We're gonna walk through this example. You're gonna say you understand how they feel. Then you're gonna show them how other people have felt the same way and what they found by working with you. It's gonna sound like this. Hey prospect, I understand how you feel. Actually, name and name felt the same way about objection. But what they found is by working with your company, benefit, benefit, benefit. By walking them through this sort of framework, they're gonna understand that not only have you shown social proof, you have shown how you've helped other people, how you've helped them, and how emotionally that made sense for those other people to continue, which, ding, 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 makes that person feel like they can continue with the rest of the conversation. Next up, I'm gonna walk you through how Chris Voss was able to successfully negotiate several hostage situations and carry his learning into sales. It's always going to start with it sounds like or it seems like. Good news is, similar to the option question, if this is wrong, they're gonna tell you. So if you say it seems like the budget is really tight this year, and they say, no, it's not that tight, this just isn't something we're interested in. Perfect. Now you found the next objection you can actually deal with other than the price. When you label, start with it sounds like or it seems like, and make an inference about the prospect situation based on what they told you. It's either going to be correct and you can handle that objection, or they're going to correct you, and then you can handle that more real objection. The mirroring objection handling style is one used for very difficult prospects who don't even want to give you an inch or the time of day. Here's how you work around that. When they say something in their initial objection like, hey, we're just not interested in this right now, what you're going to do is two things. Repeat the last three words and use an upward inflection. So if they're not interested right now, what you're going to say while you're mirroring is not interested right now. This is going to show genuine curiosity, and your prospect is either going to click, which means, yeah, there's no room for it at this moment, or they're going to open up into what the more real reason is. Then you can handle that objection. Now that you've handled the objection, your prospect is going to be open to hearing about what makes your company so special. This is differentiation. This is where you separate your company from the rest of the market by telling them how you are different in one specific area. Let me explain. There are two versions to differentiation. Version 1 is fact stating, the generic brochure of what your company does. Boring, boo. If they wanted to read a brochure, they would have gone online. Version 2 is storytelling, taking the information they gave you and incorporating your value add into that. But how do you begin telling the story of what you have to offer while also mentioning the factual evidence that makes your company different from other companies? Here's how you do that. You start by using one of three phrases. Start with, you mentioned X, then go into your value add that is relevant to it. Second thing, you can say, that's actually exactly why I called. We here at company, value statement. The third one is, I'm glad you mentioned pain because we've helped other companies solve exactly that. Here's how. Differentiation statement, value add. This is how to begin playing off the information they gave you and forming it into a story that's not only going to make sense to them, but is also going to get your facts across at the same time. This is how you show that your value adds are relevant to them, by crafting that story tailored to their situation. And after you show how you're different, you lead into how it would be beneficial for them to take a meeting with you and or your senior colleague to show more about the stark differences between yourself and either their current solution or other competitors in the industry. Do this by summarizing those pain points that you can help solve for them. This should be music to any salesperson's ears. The close I will now walk you through in our final chapter. When you close, this shouldn't be nerve-wracking because you've just spent the last couple minutes getting to know the prospect's pain points and showing them how you can help them solve those, or your senior colleague, or if that's what they're going to do. If you find yourself nervous, there are two things, both of which are your problem. The first, you haven't discovered a reason for them to take the call or ask for more of their time, aka a meeting. To solve this, you need to go back into your questions, understand more of their situation, the problems, and what those problems mean for them in the long run should they continue. Or two, you can't close the meeting because you're afraid of rejection. To close them, summarize the reasons why they would take the meeting and ask for a specific day and time. Do not be ambiguous because you will shoot yourself in the foot at the end of the call if you are. Also, the sooner you book them for, the better. That means less follow-up steps you have to take and the conversation is going to be more top of mind. So asking for time tomorrow or the day after is not out of the question. Now, for our bonus section, which most SDRs forget, I will now walk you through the post-close. This is as you're building the calendar invite, you are to ask this question. It is responsible for more meetings than any other question you've asked thus far. It comes in two words. The question, what else? The question here, what else, can actually have two different versions. First of which is going to be kind of boring and may disinterest the prospect near the end if you only ask what else. While asking what else is a good way to end the call, there is actually a better way in the second version that is going to help you more in getting better details for that next meeting. This is version 2. If you recall the option question back as the bonus in our question section, if not, go back and review it. So building off of that, we are going to ask an option question relating to their title. This is going to sound like, typically when I speak with titles, they are most interested in X, Y, or Z. What else can I provide for you in that meeting to make the best use of your time? Don't forget, this is another ask of their time, and your job is to make it worth it. When you have built up the reason for them to attend that next conversation and asked what else to understand what more they might be curious about to make the best use of their time, now you have a winning formula to book more people on your cold calls. You will be unstoppable. Now, some additional notes I will walk you through for the post-close. These are some final details in that calendar invitation that you need to know. One is the time zone. You need to understand exactly where they are, because if you book the wrong time and they meet and the meeting doesn't happen, guess whose fault that is? Yours. You're also going to ask who else would be interested in this conversation. More often than not, when you're making cold calls in any regard, multiple people are going to be involved in that decision-making process. So you ask who else might benefit from being looped into that conversation. There, it's not just a who else, it's who else might benefit. Now, you have the complete structure for the winning style of cold calls that I make to be the top SDR at my company. Congratulations, you made it to the end. That is all for today. Subscribe.